Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings and my weekly radio show, Operation Freedom, which airs out of the People's Republic of Ann Arbor every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern, and you can stream it live every Sunday, 2 to 5 Eastern at davejanda.com. The goal of this platform and that radio show and the website, davejanda.com, is to provide you information the bought-off, lame-stream, fake media will not present or will not touch. As you know, since April 3rd, I have been doing my YouTube presentations, and all my presentations actually audio only, because I underwent emergency surgery for a detached and torn retina. I'd like to thank all of you who wished me well and a speedy recovery. The recovery has been anything but speedy, but it never is with a detached retina. So I understand there's going to be some lighting issues today. We had to tone down the lighting a bit, but the good news is this week, with the healing of the retina, I can tolerate some light in the eye. So let's give it a go with the video as best we can, and please excuse any lighting issues. We just had Mother's Day this past weekend, and I was blessed to have the mom that I had. She passed a number of years ago. But one of her favorite sayings, and she, as I've mentioned before, was a history teacher. One of her favorite sayings was from Winston Churchill. You make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give. Today's presentation, I want to focus on General Flynn. I want to focus on the fact that General Flynn was a political prisoner for almost 4 years by the deep state. And today I want to speak about his exoneration. Many people over the past 3.5 years have come down on me for my support of General Flynn and his innocence. All those people had one thing in common. All those critics. They were ignorant of the facts. They were ignorant of the truth. Some because they didn't take the time to do the research, which I've done for you. But some of those folks were just zealots, trolls, deep state operatives, puppets. This is maybe a term that's unfair to scum, but they're scum. You make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give. Ruth Janda, from Winston Churchill. The bottom line is that thank General Flynn. Thank his family. Thank his phenomenal attorney, Sidney Powell. In fact, thank Donald J. Trump and his family, because they have many things in common, one of which is they gave their lives in exposing and confronting the deep state totalitarians who are intent on stripping you and every American of your remaining freedoms and liberties. I want to talk about the exoneration. You know, a lot has happened in the past week and a half. And I want to give you a little bit of a timeline, because the deep state's framing of General Flynn has been melting for many months, but it really reached a crescendo over the past couple weeks. On April 24th, 2020, the Department of Justice released what Sidney Powell had been advocating for many months. And that's something called Brady material. That's information that the government is holding that shows that a particular person, in this case General Flynn, is in fact innocent. The lead prosecutor, Van Grack, and we'll get to that scum in a minute. Van Grack had told the judge on a number of occasions that, we've handed over everything. Apparently not. Apparently not. Because on April 24th, the Department of Justice, and we have to give A.G. Barr and the attorney out of the Eastern District of Missouri, Jeff Jensen, who was appointed by A.G. Barr months ago to review the General Flynn case, we have to give both of them credit for releasing the information, the exculpatory evidence. Then on April 28th, 2020, General Flynn's former counsel, and we've spoken about them in great detail, a firm by the name of Covington, one of the partners, couple partners of which, interesting, I believe Michael Chertoff, the old national security guy in the Bush administration, the Department of Homeland Security, yeah. And Eric Holder, Obama's former attorney general, more like accomplice, accomplice in crime. They're partners in that firm. And that's who initially had been representing General Flynn, if you want to, and I use that term representing loosely, because as I've pointed out on numerous occasions, they weren't representing General Flynn. They were throwing him under the bus. It's evident. Well, on April 28th, 2020, they released 6,800 documents. I think total was 17,000 pages of information that they had withheld from Sidney Powell, who General Flynn hired in June of 2019 after he fired Covington earlier that month. They supposedly handed everything over back then. Oh, yeah, well, you got it all. Apparently not. And then on April 29th, 2020, the FBI released 11 more pages of Brady material. And then on April 29th, 2020, Judge Emmett Sullivan, who's been overseeing the case, unsealed the documents released to the Flynn team on April 24th for the public to see. And did the public see it? Well, those that were willing to open their eyes. Because there were still a tremendous number of zealots that won't open their eyes, won't acknowledge the facts and the truth. Those documents revealed how the Obama administration and the FBI and a number of other individuals and a number of other agencies framed, set up, manipulated documents, all to persecute their political prisoner, General Michael Flynn. Then on May 4th, 2020, a good old Covington firm, guess what? We found more documents that we didn't hand over in the first place. On April 24th, 2020, Sidney Powell, General Flynn's phenomenal attorney, entered a supplement to General Flynn's motion to dismiss the case against him for egregious government misconduct. I've presented this to you before, but it needs to be presented again. And the reason is because I continue to wait for the bought-off lamestream fake media to present the contents of this document. They refuse. But you're going to get it here. Here's what Sidney Powell presented. On January 29, 2020, General Michael T. Flynn submitted his motion to dismiss for egregious government misconduct and in the interest of justice. Mr. Flynn now files this brief supplement to his motion to dismiss for government misconduct. This afternoon, the government, April 24th, 2020, produced to General Flynn stunning Brady evidence. Brady evidence, exculpatory information that shows his innocence, that proves Mr. Flynn's allegations of having been deliberately set up and framed by corrupt agents at the top of the FBI. It also defeats any argument that the interview of Mr. Flynn on January 24th, 2017, that's the ambush interview that Comey was so proud of that he set up, was material to any investigation. The government has deliberately suppressed this evidence from the inception of this prosecution, knowing there was no crime by General Flynn. In addition, Mr. Flynn's counsel has found further evidence of misconduct by Mr. Van Grack specifically. That's the current prosecutor du jour, or was at the time. Not only did he make, this is Van Grack, baseless threats to indict Michael G. Flynn, that's General Flynn's son, he made a side deal not to prosecute General Flynn's son as a material term of the plea agreement, but he required that it be kept secret between himself and the Covington, that's his General Flynn's former attorneys, expressly to avoid the requirement of previous federal statutes. Since August 2016 at the latest, partisan FBI and Department of Justice leaders conspired to destroy Mr. Flynn. These documents show in their own handwriting and emails that they intended either to create an offense they could then prosecute or at least get him fired over. Then came the incredible malfeasance of Mr. Van Grack, the prosecutor, and the special counsel's office, Robert Mueller's, 19 attorneys, 40 FBI agents, all of whom I believe, Dave Janda speaking, should be held criminally negligent. Sidney goes on. And the special counsel's office prosecution, despite their knowledge, there was no crime by Mr. Flynn. All this new evidence, and the government has advised there is more to come, proves that the crimes were committed by the FBI officials and then the prosecutors. The government's misconduct in this case is beyond shocking and reprehensible. It mandates dismissal. I'll go one further. Not only dismissal, I believe prosecution of all those involved. This case is Sidney goes on, this case is a shameful blight on the American justice system. And I believe that's a bit of an understatement. And that's a document you're never going to see, hear, read, or experience through the bought-off lamestream fake media. Because, here's, in this information they handed out, they revealed, now remember, Donald Trump was elected in November of 2016. Then there was all this, there was collusion with the Russians. I mean, that started immediately. Donald Trump took office on January 20th, 2017. January 4th, 2017, here's what was in those documents. The FBI had cleared General Flynn of any illegal activity with the Russians or anyone. And in those documents, good old Peter Strzok, that scum, he sends a message to one of the other people overseeing this operation saying, don't close Razor. Razor was the term given to General Flynn. That was his code name. Even though Defense Intelligence Agency files, CIA files, FBI files, all cleared General Flynn. Don't close it. Don't close it. And remember, 4 days after Donald Trump took office and General Flynn had been named President Trump's national security advisor, Comey, in his own words, set up an ambush interview that McCabe helped create and sent two dudes, Pienka and Strzok, to interview General Flynn at the White House on January 24, 2017. But it was not, they didn't tell him that, you're being investigated. Yeah, we're looking at you. Oh, no. No. He didn't get Mirandized. He didn't get, this could be used at, no, we're looking, now, hey, we got a couple questions. Oh, you don't need an attorney. McCabe told, you don't need an attorney. They didn't even go through McGahn, the head legal counsel at the White House, because they wanted to entrap General Flynn. That's what these documents show. And these documents that were just released show something that I've spoken about for years. Oh, this is conspiracy theory, Janda. You're fabricating. I said years ago that the 302 forms that were used to prosecute General Flynn were fraudulent, that they were edited, they were made up. And guess what? This information that was just released by the Department of Justice reveals that fact. That Strzok and his little squeeze, Lisa Page, edited the 302 forms. The 302 forms, a form that the FBI fills out when they interview somebody. In General Flynn's case, interrogated him. Pienka filled it out. Strzok admits that he edited the whole thing. Yeah, he was in the room, but he changed everything. And then Lisa Page got down on him for it not being quite coherent enough. So she had to edit it. And then they had to run it by Andy. Yeah, Andy McCabe, another scum criminal, deep state puppet. Yeah. It was all edited. It was all changed. And here's the quote, best part. The original 302 still hasn't been produced. It's lost. Yeah, it's lost. Listen to the interview I did with Buck Revell, formerly of the FBI. You don't lose 302 forms. It's criminal. Criminal. What happened there? And then, whoa, the deep state really started to melt. May 7th, last week, notice of withdrawal. Oh, isn't this interesting? Pursuant to local rule of Criminal Procedure 44.5, subsection E, please note the withdrawal of Brandon Van Grack as counsel for the government in the above captioned matter. That would be the United States of America versus Michael T. Flynn, General Flynn. Oh! Another rat bites the dust. Van Grack is now gone, and we all knew when we saw that, it was about to hit the fan. Here's the interesting thing. In February of 2018, Judge Sullivan told the prosecutors, Van Grack was involved. So was Deborah Curtis, by the way. She's gone too. We've talked about that before. Told the prosecutors that they had to hand over all exculpatory evidence to General Flynn and his team. February 2018. Yet, as I mentioned, that exculpatory evidence didn't hit until April 24th, 2020, 2 years later. And multiple times from February 2018, and let me just give you an example, October 2019, Van Grack told the judge, quote, the government has complied with the discovery you ordered, end quote. What? Right. He had also stated, quote, the government has not suppressed evidence, end quote. Well, guess what? Let me tell you something. There's somebody who needs an attorney. It's Van Grack, a criminal one at that. That was May 7th. Van Grack took a powder. He can run, but he can't hide. I have a feeling more's coming that guy's way. And then later on that morning, this came out. Statement. United States Attorney Jeff Jensen, he's from the Eastern District of Missouri, the one that A.G. Barr had appointed months ago. who reviewed the Flynn case, stated the following, quote, "Through the course of my review of General Flynn's case, I concluded the proper and just course was to dismiss the case. I briefed Attorney General Barr on my findings, advised him on these conclusions, and he agreed," end quote. Jeff Jensen, little background. 10 years as an FBI agent, 10 years as a prosecutor. The guy's been around the block. Apparently, he's honest. As opposed to all these prosecutors, Van Grack, Deborah Curtis, all the rest of them. And then this came out after Jensen's statement, Justice Department dropping criminal case against Michael Flynn. The Justice Department on Thursday said it's dropping the criminal case against President Donald Trump's first National Security Advisor, General Michael Flynn, abandoning a persecution, that became a rallying cry for the president's supporters in attacking the FBI's Trump-Russia investigation. This is the Associated Press. Ready? The move is a stunning reversal, not if you knew the facts, for one of the signature cases brought by special counsel Robert Mueller. Oh! The bought-off lamestream fake media tentacle of the deep state went crazy. Oh, this is egregious. How could they do this? What? How could they do it? How could they not do it? When you know the facts. It's egregious that it went on for as long as it did. Because the FBI cleared General Flynn on January 4th, 2017.